Covering news where you live. 5 News starts with breaking news.
Well, breaking news as you're waking up this morning, Pope Francis, at the age of 88, has passed away. We're taking a live look at Vatican City, where hundreds of people are gathering, laying flowers and praying after the Pope's passing.
You'll remember Francis had experienced a number of health issues in recent years, including 2 abdominal surgeries and several serious respiratory infections. He spent 5 weeks in the hospital in February and March with bronchitis that developed into pneumonia in both lungs.
Now, this is the sounds of the Vatican, where bells are ringing this morning to mark the death of Pope Francis. There will be 88 bells, the age when he died. Crowds gathering there in St. Peter's Square this morning following the news. Pope Francis was the head of the Catholic Church for the past 12 years. He was elected in 2013 and was already one of the oldest popes at 76 years old.
The Pope's death came after he made a surprise appearance at the Vatican on Easter Sunday. Francis made his way around St. Peter's Square in the Pope Mobile, greeting people in the streets and even blessing some children.
Well, this morning, we're taking a look back at the life and legacy of Pope Francis.
Naomi Ruckham has more.
Crowds seen gathering outside of St. Peter's Basilica today following the death of Pope Francis.
Carissimi.
Cardinals announced the 88-year-old pontiff's death hours after he made his final public appearance during Easter Sunday services.
Pater, et Filius.
From a wheelchair on the balcony, he wished the throngs of worshipers a happy Easter. His final message, delivered by an archbishop, was an appeal for peace in Ukraine and the Middle East, with a call to address the humanitarian crisis in Gaza and for the remaining Israeli hostages there to be released. Doctors had recommended that the Pope rest after he spent 5 weeks hospitalized in February and March with bronchitis and pneumonia.
So good to see you.
Yesterday, U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance, a practicing Catholic, met with Pope Francis at the Vatican. On social media this morning, Vance wrote, "My heart goes out to the millions of Christians all over the world who loved him. I was happy to see him yesterday, though he was obviously very ill." The Pope often criticized the Trump administration over issues like immigration.
I like to think of Francis as the disruptor Pope. He came here as a real outsider, having never studied or worked in Rome, and he really shook things up.
A disruptor for change in the Catholic Church, described this morning by other world leaders as witty, warm, and a man of humility. Naomi Ruckham, CBS News.
Well, the Pope had been hospitalized 4 times during his reign, marking the 12th anniversary of his papacy from his hospital room.
Pope Francis received widespread credit for changing the tone of the church. However, conservative church teachings never changed during his reign.
Well, this morning we're learning more about the steps to pick the next pope. While there are 252 cardinals, only those under the age of 80 can vote in the conclave. As of March 1st, that leaves 137 electors. Eligible cardinals gather at the Sistine Chapel and take an oath of secrecy before the first vote.
The entire process is done by secret ballot. After each vote, the names are read aloud. The 2/3 majority is needed for the Pope to be elected. After each vote, the paper ballots are burned. If black smoke is seen, no decision has been made. If the smoke is white, a new Pope has been elected.
All right, we had a pretty rough weekend on this Easter weekend. Lots going on. Let's check in with Stephen for a look at the weather. Good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, it was a weekend with lots of rain chances, thunderstorm chances as well. But now we get into this week, and it's a milder start to our Monday, and our Tuesday much nicer as well. Starting off with a little bit of cloud coverage across northwest Arkansas, across the River Valley, though, seeing a beautiful sunrise so far this morning. That cloud coverage across northwest Arkansas more than likely is going to burn off by the time we get later on this morning into the early afternoon. Eventually, everybody's going to see some sunshine, just starting off a little bit gloomy across northwest Arkansas. Current temperatures out there right now, starting off into those low 50s across northwest Arkansas and the River Valley. Overall, a comfortable start to the day. The rest of the day today looks pretty mild as well. That's some good news for us. Here's a look at what we're tracking. Again, much cooler for today. Daytime highs only around those 70s for tomorrow. Going to see daytime highs back up into those 80s. Then from there, though, Wednesday, Thursday into the end of the week, we're going to see those rain chances, thunderstorm chances come right back into the forecast. Northwest Arkansas the rest of the day today. Again, that sunshine eventually going to break out by the time we get to this afternoon across the River Valley. Daytime highs into those upper 70s for us today. Winds pretty calm overall. A nice start to our Monday after a weekend where we had lots of those storms. Let's get a check of traffic out there this morning. Here's a live look out across I-540 crossing over the Arkansas River there. Good morning to you there. No accidents so far this morning. Your morning commute looks just fine.
All right, thanks for that, Stephen. Well, let's go and take a look at some of the photos that you, our 5 News viewers, have sent in showing the damage from these Easter Sunday storms. Now, if affected communities all across our area, our viewing area, with some roof damage even. Now, if you'd like to share photos of what you're seeing as you're waking up this morning, just send them to us. You just send us a text message at 479-785-5000. Leave a short message of where the photo was taken. Well, this morning, some Fayetteville residents are left rebuilding after those storms struck their neighborhood.
Yeah, they say the storm was gone as fast as it came, destroying roofs and even moving cars. Debris-lined streets and residents in the Humont neighborhood were patching damage on roofs.
Neighbor's roof was caved in. Our trampoline is in their front yard.
It's like came home and like everyone was like surrounding our house and like people were like calling us and like making sure we were okay. And
well, residents say this all occurred just before 3 Sunday afternoon. One emergency manager says that there were no injuries, but over 20 homes had either minor or major damage.
Meanwhile, flash flooding claimed the lives of 2 people over the weekend in central Oklahoma. Police and more say the high water stranded 2 cars Saturday night. One was swept away under a bridge. Rescue teams were able to save 1 person, but a woman and 12-year-old boy were found dead. Power companies across the state also reporting outages throughout the weekend after the strong winds knocked down power line poles.
Well, meanwhile, it's been just over 8 years since Liddell Lee was given lethal injection after being convicted of the murder of Deborah Reese. But at the center of his case, it's uncertainty over whether his death penalty was a mistake. New evidence shows the murder weapon in question did not contain Lee's DNA, but instead another person's on the gun reportedly used to kill Deborah Reese. This year, Governor Sanders signed into law for nitrogen gas to be used as a new execution method. Former Governor Asa Hutchinson says that he addressed the efforts to resolve what has otherwise been a shortage on a drug that was previously used for lethal injection.
I think the legislature did a good job in evaluating what methods of execution can be safely and humanely used and does not violate the 8th Amendment. And you've seen the experience in, I believe it's 3 other states that have used.
The use of nitrogen gas faced opposition during the legislative session. Though it has been signed into law, Governor Sanders says that she is in no rush to resume executions.
Well, this morning, new controversy over Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth's use of the encrypted message app Signal. This is following Sunday's New York Times report, where sources familiar now confirmed to CBS News that Hegseth shared details of last month's airstrikes in Yemen. He sent those details in a second private Signal chat that included his wife. The messages were sent the same day that Hegseth shared similar information in a separate Signal chat that inadvertently included the Atlantic's editor-in-chief, Jeffrey Goldberg. Hegseth previously denied the allegations.
There's no units, no locations, no routes, no flight paths, no sources, no methods, no classified information.
Well, overnight, a Pentagon spokesman blasted the reports in a statement accusing media outlets of relying on the words of disgruntled former Pentagon employees who were fired last week.
Well, continuing coverage on the investigation to a mass shooting at Florida State University. Students will return to class today after 2 people were killed and 5 others hurt when a gunman opened fire near the student union on Thursday. A memorial on the FSU campus grows by the day. The 5 victims hospitalized are expected to fully recover. Police say the accused gunman, 20-year-old Phoenix Eichner, sustained significant injuries during a shootout with officers and will likely be in the hospital for some time before he can be criminally charged.
At this point, there does not appear to be any connection at all between the shooter and any of the victims.
Police say that the suspect used a handgun that belonged to his stepmom. She's a local county sheriff's deputy that's now on personal leave.
Well, last week's deadly FSU shooting came over a decade after a gunman opened fire at the school's library. One man who was left paralyzed from that shooting back in 2014 says the lack of change since then is deeply troubling.
Nothing. Nothing changed. I'm not, at least to my understanding, I don't even remember them changing the turnstiles or the way that they handle things or anything at all.
Well, other schools in the state say since that 2014 shooting, they have taken steps to keep students safe. The University of North Florida says a crisis management team conducts regular training for active shooter situations. At the University of South Florida, they say they provide training for not just their officers, but also in a new in-person active threat training series.